hello everyone. What we thought would be useful for us to share is what we do on our programme that we really think has a massive impact on our students' experience. And we do it right in Welcome Week, and we disguise it as fun, but we actually think it sets up the fundamentals for what they do throughout the rest of the programme. So we set up lots of peer networking, but we disguise it. We think we disguise it quite well, so it helps the students to engage. So I'll start off with what we actually do. We run a treasure hunt for students in Welcome Week. So on the very first day, the students arrive, we give them a really brief welcome talk so they meet us. So we essentially give them do you know where you're going next Monday? This is a university, the very bare details, and then we set them off on a treasure hunt. So we put them in groups and immediately they're getting to know people. Because we use a company who essentially run the treasure hunt for us. And we put the students into smaller groups, off they go around Liverpool with an app and some activities to do. And yeah, that's essentially what we do. Now, our final year students talk about this. This is where our students meet people on the course, they make friends, and they absolutely love it. And we really think, and I was a bit cautious to put this in, but I thought, especially if the NSS results were released today, I was a bit worried what they might be. But we're top of the Russell group for student satisfaction. Sorry, I should have said this at the start. I look after the accounting and finance programme. We have 120 students come on the first day, and one of the things that we think really helps is the students getting to know each other and having this peer network. And this is one of the ways we do it. We do it right from the start, and it really does feed into our student satisfaction. Now, we're not doing it so that we get NSS scores that are great. We do this on the first day. They're not really that's not what they're thinking about when they fill it in. But what it does do is it sets them up, it sets the tone right. So that right from the start, the students have got this opportunity, this really sort of easy, kind of relaxed opportunity to meet people on their course. Adam, do you want to add anything there?
Yeah, and I think the thing I would say is that a lot of Welcome Week events tend to be quite front-led. So a lot of the options are we could do this talk or that talk, and that's okay. But actually, a lot of the more sociable, mixing together aspects tend to be not done within academic courses, and they tend to be done within either things from the student union or whatever, rather than in the course. And there's a lot of our students that talk to their flatmates and that they just don't do things like this. And what that means is you end up with a situation in week 2 or 3 where students have met their flatmates and have met other people, but haven't necessarily connected as much with their peers on the course. So we're not looking to necessarily make best friends here. We're looking for them to just know, right, who can I sit with on my lectures on week 1? So when I turn up to class in week 1, do I have a friendly face that I can turn up with? And what we do is when they finish their treasure hunt, there'll be a few lecturers in there in the final venue, and we'll find out where people are from and what they're interested in. And we'll actually then just kind of say, oh, have you met this person? Because they're from near you. And we will do a little bit of putting them together and effectively, I guess, matchmaking them as well, so that it breaks down those barriers with each other, but also breaks down the barriers between us and them so that they can approach us and speak to us as the weeks go on.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So some of the key, so you don't necessarily need to do exactly the same thing. But having that live activity where they're working together really helps us on the course. When you go into that classroom, you can see these connections. The students are more comfortable to come and ask us questions. They don't ask us as many questions because they ask each other and somebody knows. And it's really, really worked for us. So some of the key elements of this activity that are really important parts of it is that they essentially get loads of encouragement, and it's almost like permission from us to suspend all the ways you'd normally act socially. This is Welcome Week, you've got to meet some people, so just get yourself involved. And they really like that because it breaks down that social barrier that they have, where some of them are really confident and will go up and talk to someone, but plenty of them aren't, and they need that little nudge that little permission from us to just go and speak to people, get involved. You've got a week where you can do this, and then you can all go back to normal and look at your smartphones and not talk to anyone if you want. The other thing that's important, it's quite fun. So when they go around this treasure hunt, they get to a certain location and then they've got to take a photo where they've all got their feet off the ground, or, you know, just something. There's nothing embarrassing. It's really low stakes, but it's just a little activity. So nobody feels under pressure or thinking the spotlight's on them. It's just a group activity, something really easy, but a little bit lively and fun that keeps them going around the treasure hunt. The other thing that's really important is they're in that smaller group. We put them in a groups of about 6 or 7. So they meet those people, they've got something to do. So by the end of it, they do know them. But then we have a little social at the end. We're there. And we sort of encourage the groups to talk to each other. Oh, how did you all get your feet off the ground? Or did you find that clue? They just got things to talk about, and that's crucial because that's how they meet people. It's not, do you come here often, or whatever other awkward line they might start with. They've got things to talk about. We're there helping them talk to each other, and that's where this network starts to build. For us as well, we get to be part of that community. We get to meet people. We're in the classroom. We can start to pick out actually who might be a student rep. Can we encourage that? We get some feedback as to what's the communication been like. Do you know where you're going? Do you know what Canvas is? So we get loads of information from the students as well. And we can help that student experience and make sure anything they're not sure about, we can communicate to everybody. And then the last element that I think is really important is then they've had this chance to make some connections. They make it with their smaller group, they can make it with that wider group, and we follow it up then. So throughout their first semester, they've then got group work. Through one of our modules, the module leaders organises a wellbeing walk. We have academic advisor group activities. So we follow it up with more opportunities to meet people. But because they know somebody already, they've got that extra confidence to go and meet more people on the course. I think you're going to say something there.
No, and I think one of the things with the treasure hunt, and like Helen said, it can be anything, but we get a company to run it, and that's really important because what it means is in Welcome Week, we're not high stress trying to run something that we don't really have the skills or experience in. What it means is people like me and Helen and other members of staff, we're there at the start to talk about the course briefly, and we're there at the end to talk to the students. We're not worrying about logistics, we're not worrying about running it. We're just actually focused solely on the students. So rather than just trying to pull another event together and having to really juggle a lot of things and then you miss the interaction, we're really focused on actually connecting with the students. So rather than trying to do it all ourselves.
Yeah, okay, so Adam, you're now going to talk, aren't you, about how we follow this on and build on it in years 2 and 3.
Yeah, so I think that's all of the stats that we would have would show us that the lower performing students are the ones who aren't necessarily connected to either other students or don't speak to their lecturers. So we really just try and keep those opportunities going. So we have events called Triple D, which is drinks, dominoes, and whatever the other D is. Donuts. Of course it's donuts. And so we'll tie that in with maybe a little bit of talk about accreditations and exemptions, but it's really there. We'll try and maybe put a quiz on for them. So again, sitting them in small groups with the opportunity where we break down that barrier, we can actually just see how they're doing. We ask them a little bit about what's going on. They didn't want to do a quiz this year, so we did bingo because the quiz they found was quite intimidating if they weren't up on their general knowledge. So just on any opportunity to break down that barrier, see how they're going. We get great feedback. And as it says on the slides, we really get the best way of taking the temperature of how things really are, because they feel that they can talk to us because we're actually going to care about making it better. We're actually going to do what we can to improve things where there's problems. And then we can see where there's, things that are coming up before problems really occur. We can get ahead of things, but then it builds that bond between each other, and then it builds that bond with potentially us and other graduates, so that when people are moving into applying for jobs, we have this great network where if somebody's applying to one of the big accounting firms, we have a whole bunch of graduates in those firms who've got great relationships with us that will speak to those students for us, not because they've got an email from somewhere in the university, because we contacted them and said, hey, will you speak to these students? And they go, of course we will. And so you've got this kind of connection there with graduates and with final year students that just really filters through. So you've got this really friendly kind of pipeline that there's a team within the accounting and finance degree that will kind of help the people in the years above and below them. And it will build from that, really.
Yeah, so just to summarise, we do something really simple and we do it on the first day, and it helps our students make those connections. And I think it really fits in with that theme of belonging, because especially for those students who find it more difficult to just go up to people and make friends, they have that opportunity right from the start. Loads of them take it, and it really benefits them and their student experience, but it really benefits us from a running the course perspective. So thanks everyone, that's our presentation. If you've got any questions, let us know.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Adam. I think that really aligns to the keynote. I don't know if anyone saw that this morning, kind of some of the themes that were coming up throughout that. A couple of people in the chat would like to know which company you use. So if you're happy to sort of share the details of that company.
Yeah, and they'll be happy to. They're called PuzzleDuck. If I could, so I'll put that in the chat so people can see, and I'll just have a quick look for their website address. But if anyone wants to contact me, I can give you the email address. So they're called PuzzleDuck.
And they do all the kind of things as well as the treasure hunt while Helen's finding it. So if you wanted them to run quizzes, even in the pandemic, they did an online sort of escape room style thing with people. So they do other things, but I think of the ones that we've seen, the treasure hunt is easily the most popular with our students in the first year, particularly. Gives them that chance to get out, and it's always awkward meeting people. You've got something to do as well as just meet people, which helps.
Fabulous. Are there any questions for Adam and Helen? Oh, I can see a hand up. I can't see who it is. Oh, one sec. Elspeth.
Hi. Hopefully.
Hi.
Hopefully you can hear me now.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. So I don't work for Liverpool. I work for Kaplan, so we do the online programs for the master's degrees. So what I was wondering whether have you ever done this in a purely online setting?
Yes, we have. So obviously in 2020 we came unstuck with this is how we get you all integrated. And so it's the same company, PuzzleDuck, ran an online escape room for us. So it wasn't as successful as I'm sure you can imagine. It did translate quite as well, but it did still work. And the aims that we had were still met in that. So the students were put in smaller groups, they had some problems to solve. And then we had a bit at the start where we were like, hello, just get involved. And off they went in their groups, they solved their problems, they came back in and things like that. So it was great. So the bit that we missed was the slightly more, so we use it as a social at the end. So we're off, the last place on the treasure hunt is usually a bar in town. And that's just keeps an informal environment. Obviously it's quite difficult to replicate that on Zoom, but the other elements where the students were in the smaller groups, we did do. They kept those connections right throughout the year. So yeah, not quite as good, but we did run it with some reasonable success online.
Oh, that's good, thank you. I've never run a treasure hunt before. Would that equate? Could you do that online? I mean, I don't know what it involves. So.
Well, Mal, the guy who runs PuzzleDuck, is pretty open to loads of stuff, so we might be able to design you an online treasure hunt. So I've never quite done the treasure hunt online, so it was more of an escape room format. So they had puzzles to solve.
You definitely can do it. I'm a youth worker with my other hat on. I've done scavenger hunts online in my online youth work in the pandemic. It's definitely doable. So yeah, Mal will definitely be able to arrange something like that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, great. Thank you very much.